Welcome. Today we're going to take a look at what presentation looks like in writing. The purpose of writing, regardless of what kind of writing that it is for the writer to communicate ideas to the reader. To be effective at this task, the writer needs to present that information in an aesthetic manner. No matter how wonderful that the words or ideas are, if they look bad, the reader won't care very much. So what's included in presentation? Presentation is all the small details that you may not necessarily think about at first. Things like margins, which need to be set at a particular size, top and bottom and left and right. Font is typically dictated as being a specific font type and size. Spacing can be single space, 1.5, double space, or some other spacing. Paragraphing can be indented paragraphs or block paragraphs. Headings are typically expected to be specific to the style of writing that's being done. And depending upon the research style, manual that's being followed, a works cited or bibliography needs to follow that particular model. Presentation is very important in the big picture in getting your ideas across to your reader in the correct manner. Let's take a look at a works cited. This is a correctly structured works cited for MLA or Modern Language Association. We can see here that the student has turned in this works cited piece that has 5 entries in it, and it has a variety of different kinds of entries. We can see that we have books, articles, and online material included here. Each of these are also in the correct format for MLA. Make sure that for your particular piece of writing that you're following the correct research manual so that you're setting up all of the presentation correctly. What happens when we have weak presentation? Well, remember that the purpose of writing is for the writer to communicate ideas to the reader. If the writing or the writer is sloppy, that sloppiness is going to come through in the presentation. That's not going to get the ideas across very well. Let's take a look at an example here. This is a piece of an essay that a student turned in. The paragraphs are set up completely differently from each other. There is no real heading on the paper that's thorough. Some of the writing is left justified, some of it is centered. So the writing is very hard to follow because the presentation doesn't make sense. You can see here how, just looking at the presentation, this would be difficult for the reader to fully grasp all of those ideas that the writer intended. Let's take a look at another example here. This is a rough draft, but this is the entire rough draft for an entire essay. So for this being only one paragraph for an essay that was supposed to be a minimum of 5 paragraphs, we just don't have enough information here. Not only that, but we can see that the presentation does not match up with the way that it should have been written. We should see double spacing for an essay. So what should you look for in presentation? Make sure that you're formatting according to the standards. And if you don't know what the standards are, ask your teacher. Make sure that you're always editing for presentation. Don't skip it because it can be very important. Make sure that you submit or publish only beautiful pieces of writing where the presentation items have been corrected. In presentation, make sure that you're always formatting according to the standards. If you don't know what those standards are, be sure to ask. Typically, they're very specific, so don't try to make them up. Just ask for help if you need it. Make sure that you're editing for presentation. Presentation isn't always easy to do intuitively. You really need to follow the steps. So get help and make sure that you're editing if you need it. And make sure that you're only submitting or publishing beautiful pieces of writing. They should be perfected before you send them on to other people. At this point, what you should know and be able to do is to know what presentation in writing is, be able to create and use presentation, and understand ways to improve upon presentation. I hope this information has been helpful to you. Good luck with your writing.